are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll free 1-866-928-3310. And we'll send you out a no obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.CFRN.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.CFRN.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 16th day of July, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us, whoever you are, wherever you are. We're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, just go to our home page at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds, and that'll give you one-click access to the show each and every day. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, point any internet-connected browser to youtube.com/CFRN. There you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. The only difference is you won't have access to the chat box, which means you can't ask questions or participate in the discussion. Now, we also stream live during the show on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. So if you have access to any of those streaming media platforms, you'll be good to go. Now, the other 22 hours a day of the day, Saturday and Sunday. CFRN streams around the clock. We've been streaming the gospel to the four corners of the universe since April of 2005. Let's open today with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you today to ask your forgiveness and to seek your direction and guidance. We know your word says, woe to those who call evil good. That's exactly what we have done. We've lost our spiritual equilibrium and reversed our values. We have exploited the poor and called it the lottery. We've rewarded laziness and called it welfare. We've killed our unborn and called it choice. We have shot abortionists and called it justifiable. We've neglected to discipline our children and called it building self-esteem. We've abused power and called it politics. We've coveted our neighbor's possessions and called it ambition. We've polluted the air with profanity and pornography and called it freedom of expression. We have ridiculed the time-honored values of our forefathers and called it enlightenment. Search us, O God, and know our hearts today. Cleanse us from sin and set us free. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Happy Thursday. Let me give you the numbers from around the world. Put this day in some global context for you. It has been a sideways day. In the live training room, we reiterated again and again that this is a market best left alone. You hear me talking from time to time about when I'm in a mentoring session and someone's hit a rough patch, we take a look at all the trades they've taken to determine why it was a rough patch. Now, sometimes if a trader's new, they don't fully understand the strategy, or they're not yet quite adept at reading the indicators. So that can be an issue. But then there are times when the market is consolidating sideways, or even doing today what the S&P is doing and building a megaphone or bugle pattern as it's called. You know, the definition of an uptrend is higher highs and higher lows. The definition of a downtrend is lower highs and lower lows. The bugle or the megaphone, which I'll show you when I bring up the charts here after Michael comes on, is when you're putting in a higher high and then a lower low and then a higher high and then a lower low. That is very, very treacherous. Best left alone. Okay, let me refresh my data. Starting here in the US, currently the Dow is down 120 points. NASDAQ is down 129. S&P 500 down 19. And the Russell 2000 down 8. The only mover and shaker in the bunch would be the NASDAQ, which is down 1.25%. In the Asian markets, in the commodity basket, crude oil down 22 cents, trading 40.98 last. Gold down $5.80, trading 18.08 last. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei posted a loss of 175 points. Shanghai lost 151, and the Hang Seng dropped 510. Now for the Shanghai being down 151 points, that's 4.5%. For the Hang Seng being down 510, that's 2%. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 42, DAX down 56, the CAC down 23. No movers, no shakers. That gives us red day in Asia, red day in the UK. So far, it's a big red radio Thursday here in the US of A. This morning in the pre-market strategy session, we talked about, and last night in the discussion group, we talked about our sentiment for today being sideways to lower, and all of our traders were given numbers in each of the markets that if price should manage to get above that number, then the sentiment would swing from sideways to lower, to sideways to higher, from bearish to bullish. That hasn't happened yet, so we're still mired in the red here in the U.S. and across global markets. Let's go to Michael and get a recap of what happened in the live training room this morning. Michael, if you're ready, you can take it away.
Okay, I am ready. All right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday. It is 12:13 p.m. Eastern Time on the 16th day of July, 2020. If you are not a partner and you want to become a partner and you want to get into the partners meeting tonight at 9 p.m., you must become a partner before 9 p.m. Okay. If you don't know how to do that, send me an email at support@cfrn.net. Just put partner info in the header. Okay. And I will send you all the information you need to become a partner before 9 p.m. tonight. Now, if you have not taken a free trial, go to the homepage at CFRN.net, and right here it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. Click on that, and you'll be brought to this page, EminiTrainingschool.com. Now, you can go directly to this page if you want to, EminiTrainingschool.com. And down here, all we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. And you can tell us to be this trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click that link, we don't know that you took the free trial. Results. Now, Dwayne was talking about sideways to lower as far as the bias on the morning session. I'm going to show you some stuff in just a few minutes, but yeah, today was a hard day for trading. Really, I mean, we did well. We made 20 ticks on the euro, 1 tick on crude, and 14 on the ES. And put us at plus 310 on the morning session. Today it took 14 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we were up $175 a contract, and we took a total of 7 trades this morning. On the month now, we're up $4,093. That's over 11 days, averaging $372 per day. On the year, we're at 47,658. That's over 129 days, averaging $369 per contract per day. Now, I have a 30-minute chart right here. And what I really wanted to show you is, you see how you have wicks all along the top and all along the bottom. That means that price is just bouncing around in between there. And if you got beat up, if you got chewed up today, don't let it get you down. It was a really tough day for trading. Okay. Now, I spent a lot of the morning saying, I just don't want to trade right here. Look here. This is gold. And I didn't trade gold at all today. And gold has been one of my really strong suits over the last week. But I didn't trade gold at all. We had one long trade right there that would have worked out, a short trade here that would have worked out, and a short trade here that would have stopped out. During the break, it was one long trade right there. This stuff, I spent a lot of the morning saying, you don't really want to trade here. And, on the euro, we had a long trade right here that I missed. Then we grabbed onto this one for 12 ticks. This one for 2 more. This one for 6 more. And during the break, I wouldn't have wanted to do anything at all. But, you get choppy sideways periods like this, and you just got to sit on your hands. Don't force a trade. Do not force a trade. If it's not clearly visible, every indication being there, then just leave it alone. There's always going to be another trade. In crude oil, I apparently messed something up here. 40.69 up to 40.80. Yeah, we did pick up 11 ticks on that. And I forgot to mark that down, so I'm going to fix that when I get back to my spreadsheet in a minute. Let me just go look over here. Crude. Yeah. So we had the up close right here. It started to break out of this downward trend right here, and it failed to put in a lower swing right here, suggesting it was going to go higher. Actually, I'm not gonna change that because we didn't have step number 3. But we did pick up 1 tick here. We picked up 11 there, and we picked up a 1 right here. But this I shouldn't have done. And then let's see, was there anything else? Well, I mean, this is the YBR stuff. Maybe that's why I did this. It was the YBR. Okay, but I'm not counting those in my totals. And we had red on the YBR here, bearish separation and a down close to capture that move down. Doing the stuff that we do in the room in the morning, you would have had a trade right here. All right, doing the YBR, the trade would have started way up here. Okay, and that was crude today. ES, we had 3 trades on the ES that we actually executed. And here was our first one. Now, this was a bounce off the BBC, but it was also red on the YBR with a down close, bearish separation. And we picked up 14 ticks on that one. Okay, and if you move over to here, we had blue on the YBR with an up close, blue on the YBR with an up close, red on the YBR with a down close. So the YBR trades were killing it today. But we had that first trade of 14 ticks, the second trade of break even, and there was a third break even trade somewhere in here. I don't know where, but there was a third break even trade. So we had 3 trades using the stuff that yeah, Ryan. Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that at all. As a matter of fact, Dwayne's probably not back yet because there was not much to talk about today. So I'll go over one. You pick a market and tell me what market you want to look at.
I'm right here.
Oh, okay, you are right there. Okay. I
question?
was going fast, so I didn't know if you were going to get back in time.
Yeah.
The question is, would I be willing to pick one market and review every YBR signal for the first hour? And yeah, I'm happy to do that. You pick the market. Tell me what market you want me to look at. And it's the same across all markets. On the ES, okay, let's do the ES then. Let me finish this part right here. Well, I am finished with this part, really. So we're plus 14 on the ES, plus 20 on the Euro, and we're actually plus 12 on crude, but I have in the spreadsheet plus 1 because I'm not counting the YBR trade that I did. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you could read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the 16th day of July, 2020. Made 20 ticks in the Euro, 1 tick in crude, and 14 ticks on the ES. Put us at plus 310 on the morning session. Today it took 14 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $175 a contract, and we took a total of 7 trades this morning. So on the month now, we're at $4,093. That's for 11 days, averaging $372 per contract per 2-hour trading day. And as you have seen, I miss a lot of the trades. So you should be doing, if you were really focused in, not answering messages and emails and all that kind of stuff like I do, then you should be doing way better than that. Okay, but on the year now, we're at $47,658. That's over 129 trading days, averaging $369 per contract per 2-hour trading day. Okay, now Ryan, let's do what you just asked me to do. Okay. Here, this will only take a few minutes because the markets today, I mean, if you got chewed up today, don't let it get you down because the markets were rough today. But we'll start off right here with this red on the YBR, bearish separation, and red on the cycle. That's a really good indication that it's going to go in your direction. Okay. And you got the down close, so your entry point would have been right there. Move your stop to break even after you get 4 ticks in profit. In this case, we didn't get 4 ticks in profit until down here. So then the stop would have gone to break even up here. So you would have had the whole ride down. Okay. Now over here, we have red on the YBR, but the cycle's going up too steep to go short. Okay. Here, we have blue on the YBR and blue on the cycle and bullish separation. So you would have grabbed that right up into the weekly zone. This one right here, it was so close to the zone. I don't know that I would have wanted to take a second shot at it. But you did have blue on the YBR, and you had an up close, and you had bullish separation. It didn't work out at all, but all the pieces were there. Now, I'm not sure I would have wanted to take another shot at this, because if you look at, going into the weekly trading zone, and we have that level right there that it couldn't get through, and it was trying to. Okay, now over here we have blue on the YBR, and we have a down close and bearish separation. So you would have been able to grab that leg right here. Same thing, the cycle's going up kind of steep. I probably wouldn't have done anything with this, but it worked out. Over here we have blue on the YBR. Here, let's go here first. Blue on the YBR with an up close for that leg up. Blue on the YBR with an up close. Now this is a couple bars later, so you want to be a little more careful when it's like that. 1 bar later, like this, you're okay. But a couple bars, you want to be a little more careful. But we had good bullish separation down here, and it worked out just fine. This one, the cycle was going down too steep for me. Right here, we had a good shorting opportunity right there. It was followed up by another indication of a short. Over here, the cycle was going up too steep. Right in here, you could have gone long right here. This would have probably worked out to be a break-even trade. It chopped sideways for a little while, and then it finally went up, but it probably would have worked out to be a break-even trade for me. Here, we had blue on the YBR with an up close and bullish separation. Now, you see how the cycle's toward the middle here? Now, if it's between 70 and 30, I don't like to trade when it's like that. Okay, so it's just above it right here, and we had blue on the YBR. You had to suffer a little bit, and then it went up and did what it should. We had it again right here, blue on the YBR with an up close, and up it went with bullish separation down here. Red on the YBR with a down close, and you had to suffer through some sideways action right here for about 5 minutes, and then down it went. It gave the second indication right here. This one in here, the cycle is going up too steep. And right here, this one would have stopped you out. But again, the weekly trading zone's right there, so I probably wouldn't have done that. Over here, we had red on the YBR with a down close. And this is all in the first half hour. You see that? There were so many opportunities in there in the first half hour just using the YBR trades. And again, remember, you just want to get your goal for the day. You don't want to trade 30 or 40 times a day. You want to trade once or twice. No more than 10. But again, we had red on the YBR with a down close, and down it went. Red on the YBR with a down close. I don't really like the way the cycle is right here, so I wouldn't have done anything with that. And I wouldn't have done anything with that. Blue on the YBR with an up close, and up it went. The cycle would have stopped me here and here. This one I would have stopped out on. I would have taken a shot right here, and I would have stopped out. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that, or that, or that, or that, or that. I mean, the reason I'm saying I wouldn't have done it is because it's inside the weekly trading zone. Okay, so you want to break away from the weekly trading zone. Like right here, this would have been a break-even trade. And, you know, I really don't like the way the cycle is, but if I had taken it, it'd have been a break-even trade. And over here, I would have expected it to get down to the zone like it did. So I would have taken that. Hang on, I'm almost up to now. Yeah, and you really just need one of those wins, Ryan. You know, get your goal for the day. Once you get your goal for the day, then, you know, you can just sit back and watch. And I know a lot of guys do that. You know, and all the meetings that I have going on, you know, most of the guys are saying, you know, they get their goal early on and then they just watch me and listen to me and try to learn from me while I'm talking. And, you know, it's basically the same thing over and over and over and over again. And the whole YBR thing, this isn't new. You know, this is probably 8 years old, and it's been on my charts for a really long time. I just haven't talked about it. But if you get like a situation like this one right here, where you're coming out of a weekly trading zone, you have red on the YBR, you have red on your cycle, and you have good bearish separation. That right there is, you know, that's a very high probability trade. And you just need one of those. Again, I gotta say that. You just need one of them. You know, we're not trying to trade 30, 40 times a day. We're trying to trade 1 time, 2 times, get the goal, and then, you know, go do something else. Okay. All right. See how we have blue on the YBR here? We have nice bullish separation. We get an up close on this bar. That's right there. Is a YBR long. Now let's watch this thing and see how it plays out. Okay. Hang on, I gotta take a bite of my sandwich. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still eating a breakfast sandwich that I made this morning, 9 a.m. So now, see, the entry point would have been right here at 31.95, and I anticipate it's going to get up here to 96.5. Your stop would go to break even after you get 4 ticks in profit. Okay, the MA1 part of my normal risk management strategy doesn't come into play with the YBR trades. Okay, you got to get 4 ticks in profit, because a lot of times the YBR, you know, it's going to pull all the way back down and hit the YBR. And using the normal strategy that we use in the morning session, you know, the black step line is going to cross below the BBC, the MA1 is going to cross below the BBC. So you're going to have all these disqualifying factors from the morning session stuff. So you got to change your risk management strategy just a little bit, just to hear. I mean, take the MA1 part out of it, and just say, if I get 4 ticks in profit, I'm going to throw my stop at break even. And, you know, right now it's a little bit choppy, but it should move up from here. You see how down here in the slingshot, the green line? Now the green line down here in the slingshot is the fastest line on the chart. And if it gets wiggly like this, it's all jiggy on you, then you just got to wait it out. All right. The cycle's blue and going up nice. So you just got to wait this one out. It's going to work out. You know, the entry point would have been right here at 31.95. My stop would have been at break even at this point if I had placed the trade, but I didn't. But my stop would be at break even right now. And so I wouldn't have any risk on the trade. And where do I anticipate it's going to go? Well, as the green line gets up into the cycle, it should get at least up here to 96.5. I think it'll probably go a little further, up to 97, and then probably get rejected. But you can see the trade itself started out right here at 95, and just sitting at 1.25 points right now. And again, if you have 10 contracts on, that's all you need. One of those a day. And I just went over a whole bunch of them so far today. Now, I think it's going to get up here to 97. Let me look at my DOM. Yeah, it's going to get up to 97. It's actually, I think it's going to get up to 98. 98. It may not go directly there, but it's going to go up to 98. And so, mark my words, it'll be up here within the next 15 minutes. But with that, I am gonna pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. I'd be locking in a little bit right now, Ryan. At least enough to pay for the trade, to capture the commission. But you watch, it's gonna get up here to 98. And I see your charts, Dwayne.
Recap of the recap.
Today it took 14 minutes and 2 trades to get to $175 a contract.
Good job. Okay, guys, so far this week 102 of Logic 247. Logic 247 is the around-the-clock Emini alert service. We open 6 p.m. Eastern every Sunday night. Stay open around the clock until Friday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern. So far this week, all of our traders have been given 70 actionable trades, of which 10 got stopped out. That represents 14% of the actionable alerts being stopped out this week. Last week, we had our busiest week yet. And I think I've got that right here. Last week, we issued a total of 136 alerts. 103 were actionable trades. 8 of those were stopped out. So at the end of the week, 8% of the actionable trades were stopped out. That's not a typical number. The typical number is 20%. Now, when we rolled in on Monday, we had 27 alerts, 18 actionable. Tuesday, we were up to 37 actionable. Yesterday, we were up to 61 actionable trades. And here we are on Thursday, we're up to 70 actionable trades. And again, 10 have been stopped out based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade, less when possible. 14% of actionable alerts stopped out. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Here we go. S&P. Now, throughout the evening session, we had a inside day underway. But this morning, yesterday's swing low was 31.92. So this morning we took that out slightly. We put in a low at 31.88.5. So what happened is we came down to blue and climbing, which we expect to act as good support as we're coming down. That's all markets, all time frames. This is again the daily. So what needs to happen, if price is going to trade lower, it's got to overcome this support. We've got the support here, but Tuesday, the Tuesday high, we've got blue and climbing, we've got the step line. So for prices to go lower, a lot of work to do. If we get below blue and climbing, if we get below the step line, that opens a window of opportunity. There's a window here. There's a window here. Could those become one window? Absolutely. Price could trade from this area. So we've got this low right here. See that? So that's big picture. Now, if we look at just the last leg up, which is from there to there, from the low to the high, 24% fib is just below the step line. So got to come through blue and climbing, got to come through the step line, hit the 24% fib, get below the 24% fib, window of opportunity, and then the 38% fib of just the last leg up is sitting here right on top of the daily BBC. All right, here we are on the 30-minute chart. Okay, now I posted a picture this morning, an image, a chart, in the discussion group. And I'll show it to you here. Okay, you can see it there, but this is what it looked like at the time. Possible head fake to the upside on the ES. Okay, smart money loading the boat for a potential move to the downside. Certainly possible. It's kind of how it looks now after the fact. But you also heard me talk about the market putting in a, see, here's a high, here's a higher high, and here's a higher high. Here's a low, here's a low, a lower low, and a lower low. So you've got price doing this, not the definition of a trend. Higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low. Some people call it a megaphone or a bugle, a couple different names. It does make for some treacherous trading. Okay, so we are, as we have been most of the morning, below the weekly zone at 3,200. We're below the BBC. As long as we stay below the BBC, we anticipate lower prices. That's every market, that's every time frame. Now, crude, I also posted this on crude this morning to try to give everybody a heads up. When crude comes out of this lengthy consolidation, it may head substantially lower, but it may first pop to the upside to allow the quote-unquote smart money, that's tongue-in-cheek, to load the boat at higher prices before the money leg to the downside. So this is what it initially looked like. And then it looked like that, and then that, and that. Boom, boom, boom. And now, as you can see, price did break out of the consolidation. It did do what appears to be at this point a head fake to the upside. See, we got the little doji right there on that trend line, and then this big profit-taking leg to the downside. Question is will it continue? In order to do so, it's got to take out this area of support right here. In fact, let's do it this way. So we got resistance overhead, support below. To get a meaningful move to the downside, we've got to take out this support. And just as soon as we take out that support, then we have this potential support. And if we can get through this area, which we highlighted this morning in the pre-market strategy session, then we've got this area of potential support. And if price can get through that, then it runs into a weekly trading zone. So this kind of market right here, okay, best, it's a great day to go fishing, take a really long walk, okay, because you want markets that do this. Many traders who make money when the market does this hand it all back when it does this. And then they make some more money when it does this. and then hand it all back when it does that. And then they make money up here, and then right here, hand it all back. So being aware of where the market is, what its objectives are, what it's trying to accomplish, what the obstacles are, those are all so much more important than having the latest shiny object, magical indicator, mystical oscillator. You know, being able to look at the chart, look at price, understand what the obstacles are, what the objectives are. It doesn't make trading easy, but it can make it simple. Last night, Concierge Trade Alerts, I'll drag those up to the big screen. You can grab a screenshot if you'd like. If you missed the pre-market strategy session, Valerie has posted it in the pre-market strategy session channel. So alerts came out last night, 9:50 p.m. Eastern. I usually try to get them out shortly after the Globex open, but the condition of the markets last night told me I didn't need to be in any kind of a rush, and so I wasn't. So if you want to grab a screenshot, I'll scroll it down so you can capture these additional markets that we've added. I replaced the 30-year bonds with the 10-year note, and after watching the 10-year note for the last couple days, it's all coming back to me as to why I didn't put the 10-year note in previously. I mean, it has some movement. It's just not the type of movement that I'm accustomed to. So I'm not going to take it out right away. We'll continue to watch it. I also added by request the Canadian dollar, the euro, the British pound, and silver. Okay. So let's take a peek. Today is Thursday, so I expect Dr. Tom to join us in about 15 minutes. All right, on the S&P, consider being short 3204. And again, the alerts came out at 9:50, so that would be the 9:30 candle. So that would be 21:30. 21. So that would be that candle right there. It was during this 30-minute period. And the alert was to be short 3204. Now remember, the ones you just took a screenshot of are the Concierge. Those are the ones based on historic price action. Historic price action. Delivered as a static report, the one you just saw, shortly after the Globex open each evening. The numbers, however, are good for the entire session. Each day I show you the markets that trigger again and again and again. And it looks like I'm about to do that again. Okay. Now the Logic 247 alerts, which I showed you the recap of just a few minutes ago. This one. These are delivered around the clock, live in real time, as opportunity presents itself. So why two different alerts? Well, because one's based on historic price action, one's based on current price action. And when you find these unique opportunities in the market, where they're both pointing a finger at the same important price, important area, well, that's where you'll find high probability, low risk trading opportunities. So the alert was to sell 3204. Now, with a weekly trading zone right below us, we didn't expect a huge move. We didn't get one. Fell 3204. Swing low was 3200.75. The actual zone is 3200/3201. The weekly trading zones go out to all of our members every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We've published those since December 14th of 2009. Only 3 things happen at a weekly trading zone. The most likely thing is what you see here, 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 consolidation. Second most likely is rejection. So this was a big red candle, came down, touched the zone, but by the time the 30-minute period was up, all you were left with was just wick touching the zone. So price was rejected at the zone. And this is the third and final thing that can happen is the slice. This isn't a great example of the slice, so when I come across a better example, I'll point it out. It's like it sounds. It's when price slices through a zone as if it's not even there. Okay, so from 32.04 down to 32.01, that's 3 points. Okay, price gets back above the trigger, triggers again. This time it goes down to the zone again. You've got red and falling accompanying, so that's just exactly what you want. So it triggers, then it triggers again, and then it triggers again. Now, it triggers again here, right? It gets above the trigger, comes off. Here, it poked its head up, but the dynamic is completely different. This is why it's so important to always go look at the chart. Never trade an alert just because it's an alert. Because while selling 32.04 here made perfect sense all across here, because you've got red and falling, selling 32.04 here, not a good idea. Because if you sell, you're going to run right into support at blue and climbing, right? Now, did this actually make it down to the zone? So I'm saying it actually hit the target anyway? But I'm saying it's not a trade that I would actually take. I wouldn't. Okay? Everybody clear on that? It's always important to look at the chart, see what the chart currently says, because this was put out at 9:45. I think I said it was last night. Go back to that. 9:50. Okay? So 12 hours later, a little more than 12 hours, the dynamic has changed. So I hope you understand that. If you don't understand it, please ask a question. Because each and every day, via the CTAs and the Logic 247, you're given opportunity after opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to take your goal, your couple points, or whatever it is your goal is. You're given that opportunity repeated times, day after day, week after week. In case of the CTAs, 6-7 years. In the case of Logic, 102 weeks. Okay? But don't just trade the alert. There's a twofold reason to go look at the chart. Number one is to make sure that the market structure still supports the idea of the trade. The second is so that you actually learn to start spotting these opportunities yourself. Because you don't want to be dependent on me for the rest of your life. Okay? Yeah, I wonder if Wayne's going to get up today. I wonder if he's going to show up today. I wonder if he's going to put out any alerts today. You know, while I'm in my prime, take advantage, learn, so that when I decide to put my feet up, you're not left in the lurch. Okay? You actually know how to do everything that you've seen me do. Because everything I do, I teach you how to do. If not in a workshop, if not during this radio show, then during the one-on-one mentoring sessions and in the pre-market strategy sessions, okay? Now, I mentioned last night, if the market had picked up, I thought about opening the room last night for the London Open. But the market just wasn't doing much, so I left that idea alone. It is an idea I'm going to entertain going forward. Should I make plans to do that, of course, you'll be notified. That will be open, of course, to anyone who is a current member. All right, and if you happen to be on a trial that week, then you'll get an invitation as well. Okay, so that was the short side of the S&P. The long side was 32.35. Doesn't look like we're going to have to worry about that today. All right, so let's get through these other markets. On the Dow, sell 26,495. 26,495. That's where it'll be if we get there. The swing low, 26,501. Okay. The long side for the Dow, 26,885. Way up here, above our make or break number. In the morning in the pre-market strategy session, I try each day to give all of the traders a make or break number. Like coming into today, the sentiment was, since last night, sideways to lower. But I give them a number for each market that if price trades above or below that number, that's when the sentiment switches to the other direction. That helps you to not get caught up in head fakes like this. Okay. Now, you see this swing high right here. Wonder why price stopped there. Is it a zone? Nope. But I'll show you what it is. Bearish cross equals resistance the next time price gets up into that area. I try to show you this every day, every time it happens, because it's very important. Learning this will help you tremendously. Okay? If for some odd reason you were long this move, at least you know where to expect resistance and why, so that you can lock in your profits and do accordingly, based on your business plan and your trading plan. So on the Dow, CTAs, no trigger. There were logic alerts in between these areas, which you can look through in the channel. Of course, if you're a member, you always have access to that. If you're a passport holder. If you're on the trial, you have access to it for the week that you're on the trial. Now, let me just say this again real slow. You're allowed 2 free trials in your lifetime, or mine, whichever comes first. 1 every 6 months. We do track by IP address. Okay? We never have a problem with our members doing shady stuff. Okay? It's the folks who, aren't ready to commit. They've been burned so many places, they figure there's just one more place they're going to get burned. Well, business is business. So, for a week, we give you royal treatment. We treat you just like you're a member. You have access to everything. All the training, workshop, daily training each day in the live training room. Weekly trading zones, Logic 247 alerts, Concierge Trade Alerts. And when you try to, sneak back in, it's just awkward. It's awkward for us. It's awkward for you. I mean, if something legitimate happened and you weren't able to fully take advantage of your trial, talk to Valerie. She's very nice. 949-42-EMINI, support@cfrn.net. Just be honest. Just say, hey, you know what? I took the trial last week. I had to do this, blah, blah, and whatever. So she may or may not grant you an extension. I leave that entirely up to her. All right? Just do the right thing. Make God smile. Okay. Could this move lead to a trigger? Yeah, if we can take out the slow. It all depends on that. Go to the Russell. On the Russell, short 1452. Haven't got there yet. Long 1488. Haven't got there yet. Okay. Remember, when the CTAs come out, best way to handle them is to go put 2 lines in the sand. For the Russell, for example, put a line in the sand at 1448. I'm sorry, 1488. And then put a line in the sand at 1452. And just know that everything that happens in between those two lines is the market making up its mind what it wants to do. Does that mean you can't trade between the lines? No, there will most often be Logic 247 alerts, as I'm sure there was a Logic 247 alert that walked you right down to this weekly trading zone at 1454/55, and it's happening again right now, heading right back to the zone. Remember, as long as price stays below the BBC, we anticipate lower prices. And once we had this bearish cross, we had one candle that closed above the BBC here, but that doesn't change anything because it's still joined at the hip to the BBC. Never lost touch. Okay. Now this candle right here, this is an important candle because it's opening, and well, even the preceding candle opened and closed below the BBC. This one opened, hasn't closed yet. It's still got a couple minutes left in its lifespan, but you can see where it's headed. If it gets through that zone, it'll trigger. Then it'll run into a weekly zone from last week, which we've labeled as potential support. And then it could just keep cooking right on down to the zone below. And if I'm not mistaken, I have an alert in the channel that covers it, taking out that zone all the way down to that zone, which we expect to be good support. Okay. All right, in Q. So here was our bearish cross. It happened yesterday at noon. We dropped to, you see where we dropped to? See that bullish cross? Support. Sent us back up to the zone. Resistance. Resistance sent us back down to the zone. Support. Okay, we traded down. See this swing low right here? That swing low right there. That swing low right there. Anybody that tells you support and resistance is dead, old-fashioned, horse and buggy, get with the program, man. We got algorithms now. Okay, we do. But that doesn't change support and resistance to the markets. It's kind of like gravity on planet Earth. Kind of like oxygen and gravity. I mean, you don't think about them a lot, but you know they both exist. Without oxygen, you can't live, and if you step off a tall building without a safety net, oh, we know how that ends, right? It's part of the fabric of the universe. And since the inception of the markets, even before the Wall Street markets, go back to the days of the rice traders, and the traders that traveled on ships, selling their wares from country to country. People are going to get as much as they can for an item. Occasionally they'll put it on sale so they can sell more of it, right? But when people aren't willing to pay a higher price, well then, you got to go find what price they will pay. And it creates this in the market. Lag, retrace, lag, retrace, lag, retrace, lag, retrace, lag, retrace. You see this low, you had a lower low. See this high, had a lower high. That's the definition of a trend. You can only connect two candles right there. If I highlight that and go Control C and Control V, that gives me a trend line at exactly the same angle. Okay. So if price can't get above this weekly zone, and if it can't get above the trend line, the potential for it to trade into this area here, support, is quite good. Before I would want to get short in this area, I'd like to see price back below the BBC, back below red and sideways, below the step line, then that opens the door for the move down. If we get above the trend line, okay, there's a little area right here, and then a little area right here. and in this little area right here. Those are stages that you could trade on the upside. But the make or break number is going to be about 107.22. So last night for the NQ, consider being short 105.45. 105.45. Sell 105.45. All right, this swing low. Calculator. 105.45 minus. Well, just this initial swing low right here. 104.96. 105.45 minus 104.96. That's 49 points. The NQ pays $20 a point. 49 times 20 equals $980 per contract traded. That's from the entry to this swing low right here. Right there. Now, the market did bounce off support. It did bounce. Hit red and falling. Dropped some more. Okay, it actually dropped to 104.85. So if we go 545 minus 485, that's 60 points. At $20 a point, that's $1,200 per contract traded. Now, if I extend the line, important prices, important areas, almost always tested. So while this was a good trigger, see over here, you got blue and climbing below you, and that represents support. And it sent the market higher. That's what support does. Just like resistance sends it lower. And we've now got red and falling right below the trigger. Okay, so what if it reversed and came down right here, right now? Would I be interested in shorting that? No, I want to see price get below red and sideways. I want to see price get below the step line. Now this upside window, this is counter trend. I won't put an alert out on this. If we pull away from the BBC, if we pull back to the BBC and it holds, and then we continue up, okay, now then a long trade would be in keeping with the trend as defined on the 30-minute chart. Okie doke. So we've covered the S&P, the Dow, the Russell, the NQ. I don't see Dr. Tom usually types into the chat box when he gets here. Let me look in the audience and see if I see him. He always, there he is. Hey, Dr. Tom, it looks like you're muted on your end. He may be just getting logged in. So as soon as you're ready to go, just type me a message in the chat box and we'll jump over to Crude real quick. All right. I showed you this earlier. I just drew this trend line across and I said potential head fake to the upside, which is kind of what we got. Doji right at the trend line. We started tracking it early on. I showed you, just go look in the discussion group and you'll see the different images. Okay, we were waiting for this to happen. Okay, price was down here. So I put several different screenshots as it crept its way up and got rejected. Okay. So on crude, we wanted to be long above 41.65, which never happened, or short below 40.55, which never happened. Gold, The alert on gold was to be short 1809. 1809 is right here. The target was the zone at 1805/06. So that's a $300 per contract trade. Here we got, well, this first drop just took us to 1807, so 200 bucks. Back above the trigger, still have red and falling. So the next trigger took us from 1809 down to a swing low at 1805 half. So about $300 per contract traded. We got just above the trigger, down again. Okay. Now over here, these see, you're fighting blue and climbing. You don't want to do that. Over here, just as we're turning to red and fall, look at this thing go. All right, here's where we expect support, 1797. I think that's the number I gave the guys this morning in the pre-market strategy session. And then below that, we've got the weekly zone at 1794. Now, is silver taking the ride too? Yes, it is. The alert last night for silver was to be short 1968. 1968. 2 pennies is 100 bucks. Sell 1968. Well, Dr. Tom, when I try to unmute your microphone, it says self-muted. I just did it again and it still says self-muted. You want to try it again? Dr. Tom, there's nothing I can do, brother. Try unmuting on your end. I don't know if it's your headset or computer, or maybe you're dialed in today. Still says self-muted. Still says self-muted. I don't know if maybe logging out, logging back in might help. Maybe if I promote you to presenter, I don't know if that will allow you to unmute yourself or not. Okay, I just sent you the thing to be the presenter. Maybe you can unmute yourself then. I see your screen, but I still don't hear you. I don't even see you in the box anymore. Oh, because I moved you over.
Here I am now.
Okay, did you manage to get it unmuted? Awesome. Everybody, Dr. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. I had to borrow somebody else's microphone.
Uh-oh.
For some reason, mine wouldn't unmute.
Get you a Heil PR40. It'll set you back about $400, but it's a nice microphone. Yeah.
Well, I can borrow that from you, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Anytime. So I know you were a little, you had an issue with the throat last week. Feeling better?
I am. It wasn't just my throat. I mean, I was just like, it was my birthday and I ended up spending the whole day in bed.
Oh, man. Well, now, some people you might ask them, what would you like for your birthday? Huh, just let me stay in bed all day. That would be that would be a gift for some folks, but you're a busy guy, so not a gift for you.
I hated it. I never take naps. You know, I have a lot of friends that like to just do a little siesta in the afternoon.
I'm one of them.
I like to eat going. find out if I sleep at all during the day, even for half an hour, messes up my sleep at night. So.
Yeah. Well, I've heard different reports, different statistics. They say that, usually about 15 minutes is sort of restorative, but if anything longer than 15, 20 minutes is you start to get into that deeper sleep cycle, and that's when you wake up grumpy and groggy and
Well, when I was in the Marine Corps, they used to put us in what they call the cattle trucks,
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a big box thing on the back of an 18-wheeler. And they had benches down both sides and then double benches back to back in the middle. And they would just pack us into like sardines.
Right.
So you couldn't even move. So the only thing to do is try and rest. I'd take my rifle, put it down between my feet, put my helmet on top of it, wrap my arms around it, and I could sleep with that thing, because they never let us sleep at night. They're always getting us up and yelling and screaming and turning the lights on and get up, get up, get up, get up. They love to mess with you,
I used to be able to sleep anywhere, anytime. I could sleep in Japan. I could sleep on the train standing up, holding onto the strap. On a city bus, I could fall asleep. On somebody's house, if the conversation got boring, I'd get me a newspaper and I'd act like I was reading the newspaper. I was out like a light. But that's a young man's game. It doesn't come quite as easy these days.
Yep. I guess everything changes as we get a little older.
So tell us, why did prosperity get a bad rap?
I don't know. It bothers me because in certain areas in the church, when you say the word prosperity, they immediately think of these televangelists that are on TV begging for money all the time. And I know there's abuse like that, but God doesn't think prosperity is a bad thing at all. And I wanted to just share some proof from the Word what God's attitude towards prosperity is. That's okay.
I don't know if you remember this. Yeah, it is more than okay. But back in 2008, I believe it was, The Atlantic, which used to be sort of a highbrow intellectual type of magazine. You could find articles that might lead to some deep thinking. Now their articles lead to deep stinking because it's so very far off the left side of the universe that it's just incredible. But in 2008, the cover of the magazine that month had a Mercedes, and I'm looking for the image now. I'll show it when I take the charts back later. But it said that evangelicals were the reason the economy went off the cliff in 2008. Yeah, it was the cover story. It was our fault. So tell us why. I got to step away for 1 second, but you go ahead and you start telling us exactly why prosperity got a bad rep.
Okay. Well, let's start off with somebody who was very prosperous and very wise. According to the Bible, King Solomon, who's the wisest man who ever lived, according to the Bible, he ruled for 39 years, and he received about 25 tons of gold each year of his reign. So I don't think he got a cost of living increase, but he managed to get by on 25 tons of gold. Of course, that'd be worth not just billions, but trillions. His personal net worth in today's dollars would be about 2 trillion. I did a search for the richest people on earth, and this is on a secular side, not talking about people in the Bible, but he's the only one from the Bible that made it in the top 10 list. And even secular people, they listed different emperors and whatever over the years, but he was right there in the top 10. Now, I think there's somebody who was in the Bible that's higher than him. I'll share in a minute, but what do you think when you hear that? You know, I taught this teaching a course on biblical economics at a seminary, and I asked the students after I read this slide, you know, how did they react? Think about, you know, what your emotion is. A lot of people get angry when they think of somebody having that much money. A lot of people are resentful. A lot of people say, well, good for him, you know. They're happy that somebody's blessed. Other people say, well, why him and not me? So I just had them do a little attitude check on how they felt about the whole thing. But let me tell you how he kind of got here. In the book of 1 Kings, it says the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream, and God said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. And God meant that. Whatever Solomon asked for, he would have given him. But Solomon said, you've shown great kindness to your servant, my father David. Remember David, King David, who was a man after God's own heart. He was the father of Solomon, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in his heart. You've continued this great kindness to him and given him a son, talking about himself, to sit on his throne this very day. I want y'all to listen to this, because one of the reasons you're trading is because you want to be prosperous. So let's find out how to do that. And he says, now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David, but I'm only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Of course, he wasn't a child, he's a grown man. But what he was saying there was, I feel like a child because I don't really understand how to do my job. It's a big, big job. He goes and say, your servant is here among your people. You've chosen a great people, too numerous to count a number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? And the Bible says the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. Remember, he could have asked for anything. It's like a dream of genie, you know, whatever you want. He could have asked for a mountain of gold. And God goes on and says to him, since you have asked for this, and not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have you asked for the death of your enemies, but for discernment in administering justice, I will do what you have asked. That's what he promised. I'll do it for you. He said, I will give you a wise and discerning heart. Listen to this, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor will there ever be. So this is why people say that Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived, because God said, I can make you so wise that you'll be wiser than anybody who's ever lived before you and anyone who will ever live after you. So even if you're the top guy in Mensa, you're not any wiser than Solomon. And then he says, this is cool. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. During his lifetime, there was no other king that was close to him because he was such a good king. And then there's the if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and commands, as David your father did, I will give you long life. Well, unfortunately, although he had great wealth and honor, and although he was such a wise man, his life didn't end that well. He ended up not following the Lord. But that's another story. The point here is that because he didn't ask wealth, God gave it to him. He asked for what he should have asked for, wisdom and discernment,
Yes.
and good judgment, to rule the people of Israel. So that's a pretty neat story, right?
It is, and you may have already covered this in the last few minutes, but the biblical definition of prosperity is far different than the world's definition of prosperity.
That's true.
The world defines it as money and things and possessions. The biblical definition, as I'm sure you'll probably cover here as we chat today, much different. So,
Yeah, it includes wealth, because here God said, "I will give you wealth and honor," but it includes much, much more than that. And if God does give you wealth, it's only if you have the right attitude toward it. If you let it become your God, then you'll find yourself on the red line.
now, this was a lesson hard learned, but for me personally, I won't go into the whole long story, but the enemy can profit you for a season.
That's true.
The enemy can put money in your pocket for a season, because some people would take a look at some of the evil people in this world right now. Perhaps someone like a George Soros. I think most people, especially the ones who tune into this radio program, would say that guy's like the epitome of evil. Why did God give him so much money? Let me just say again, the enemy can prosper you for a season. Go ahead.
The devil led him to do some pretty evil things. Like he basically crashed the economy of Great Britain.
Broke the Bank of England.
Yeah. He made, I think it was $4 or $5 billion, but it cost the country something like $27 billion to repair the damage he'd done.
And now, when we say, he broke the Bank of England, people go, oh my, well, so let me cry a river for the Bank of England. Well, no, you got to understand what he did. Yes, it's summed up in he broke the Bank of England, but think of all the people that lost their jobs, all their hopes, all their dreams, destroyed. And he's doing it again here in America, funding Antifa, but that's another story, I guess, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He's also a major funder of Black Lives Matter.
Which is Antifa and blackface. Sorry, that's what it is.
Well, if anybody's interested in knowing what Black Lives Matter is really about, read my article on Conservative Truth today. I tell you who they are from their own website.
ConservativeTruth.org, guys. That's a great website. Dr. Tom's been publishing timeless articles there for how many years?
20 years now.
20 years.
So, anyway, when I was young, I went to a church, and it was mostly poor folk in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know if the pastor did it consciously, but we were basically taught to be suspicious of people that had money. They must have done something wrong, because for all the Bible says, blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the earth. But if you go back into Greek, what it's really saying there is blessed are the meek. There is no virtue in being poor.
Yeah, I mean, imagine sending your kids off to school with holes in their shoes, raggedy pants. Well, probably I shouldn't say raggedy pants, because you got to pay a lot of money to get those raggedy jeans in the department store today. But or you pull into the church parking lot and a hubcap falls off. God gets no glory from that. Come on.
No. One of the scriptures I quote later on is where Jesus says, "I'm come that you have life and have it more abundantly." And there's no one that convinced me that an abundant life is not being able to feed your kids,
right,
or getting kicked out of your house because you can't afford to pay the rent or the mortgage. So God wants to bless us in all areas of our lives. But anyway, we just kind of looked at wealthy people a little bit askance,
Even as your soul prospers, one of the scriptures says.
Yeah. So they always point to this. It's basically a parable, but it's quoted in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where Jesus said it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. Well, if you take that on its face, what does that mean? it means nobody that's rich is going to heaven, right? Because a camel can't go through the eye of a sewing needle. It's impossible. But yet, as we'll see in a minute, there's lots of very, very wealthy people who had the right attitude toward money and who used it for the glory of God, that God honored them and blessed them and praised them.
Will you be talking today about the needle?
That's exactly what I was about to do.
Okay.
Do you want to do it or do you want me to?
No, brother, you do it.
Okay. I love this because this verse bothered me, frankly. At night, they would lock them up and bar them and very well secured. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the guy would come along with his camel and all his goods on the camel's back and everything. And he'd knock on the door and he'd say, "Hey guys, let me in." They said, "No, sorry. Yeah, but I have a reservation in the Holiday Inn inside there." "No, sorry, but they would examine him, the guys up on the wall, look around, see if he's got some guys hiding in the bushes, because they open the city gates to let him in, and a whole bunch of other people come in and maybe kill everybody. So they never opened the city gates after dark. But what they would do is they'd open the eye of the needle, which was a small gate, a small door, basically. And even a short man would have to bend over to get into it. So there's no way a camel can walk into that. And these guys traveled on camels. So what he would have to do after they cleared him and checked his passport, everything, made sure he was cool, he would have to take the saddle and all the goods and supplies off the camel's back. He would have to bend over and walk through, and then he'd pull on the rope, and his camel didn't like it, but the camel would crawl through. The camel had to get down on his knees and crawl through the gate. And then he had to go outside and drag all that heavy stuff that the camel had been carrying through, because there's no way he could get through the gate with this stuff on his back. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult. It's not easy to train a camel to crawl.
Moral to the story is show up before the cutoff point.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no question it was difficult for him to get in. Okay, hauling all that stuff, it's heavy gear, training his camel to crawl in, yank it on the rope. Camels spit at you. They're very nice.
I've heard. Yeah, I've never been spat on by one, but I heard they could be pretty mean.
Yeah, and they can spit for a long distance, and their breath is worse than Al Sharpton's. Anyway, that's the true story. So it really helps if you're studying the Bible, if you know something of Bible history.
Yes.
And get yourself a
I was talking yesterday about Josephus. Josephus lived during the time of Jesus. I know that you know this, but he was a historian, and he wrote about Jesus. The only thing is he didn't believe that Jesus was the Messiah, Son of God, right. Just as the Jewish people of the day, the Sanhedrin and all the others, they just didn't accept that Jesus was the Messiah. And so I forget what point I was trying to make yesterday, but I said, guys, if you'll go study history, now that we, as Christians, we believe the Bible to be, historically accurate evidence of what actually happened. And we have the news reported by 3 different people that were there: Matthew, Mark, and John. Luke wasn't there. Luke based his account off of what Matthew, Mark, and John had to say. But it's an eye-opening experience to read the history of that time through the eyes of someone who wasn't a believer. Back to you.
Yeah, and Josephus isn't the only one.
Right.
Polycarp. There's a number of historians of the time who all the other history that they've recorded is the same as what's in the regular history books. So you could tell they didn't have an axe to grind. They were like reporters of their time. Mm-hmm. Basically, historians start off as reporters, and then after they die, they're historians because what they reported live becomes history. But the point is, we don't need Josephus and Polycarp and these guys to show that the Bible's true. You know, there used to be this saying, you know, if God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. Well, that's just not true. It doesn't matter a bit whether I believe it or not. It's still true.
Yeah, you can deny gravity, but stay away from the edge of tall buildings, right?
So God said it, it's a truth. If I believe in it, great, then I benefit from it. If I don't, well, that's my problem, but it's still true. So here's some rich folks in the Bible. Now, I looked at the richest people in the world, and I found a secular website that listed the 10 richest people, and Solomon was one of them. He was the only Bible character that was listed, but he was one of them. I personally believe that Adam and Eve were even wealthier than Solomon, because basically they owned the whole earth.
Yeah, they had dominion over the entire earth.
After the flood, Noah was the patriarch of the entire earth, because they had to rebuild. Job, we know he was just wealthy in lands and cattle and blessed with a great family and all. He went through a lot of grief and problems, but he never turned against God. He said, I know that my Redeemer lives, and I'll see him in the last day. Melchizedek, he's kind of a shadowy character, not shady, shadowy, just that we don't know a whole lot about him. People that say, well, tithing's out for today, it was only under the law. Well, obviously they haven't studied the Bible, because tithing predated the law. Okay, Abraham gave tithes to Melchizedek.
Who was called? What was his title? High priest. Melchizedek.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's like a long title with a whole lot of stuff in it. He was like boss hog, when it comes to spiritual things. And
okay,
I'm sorry, maybe I shouldn't be so fluent, but he was, and he was a type of Christ, and that's why Abraham tithed to him. He was an extremely rich man. Of course, Abraham was very wealthy, and then he passed his wealth on to Isaac, who passed it on to his son Jacob. David, who was Solomon's father, a lot of Solomon's riches came from David. So did God put these people down because they were rich? Did he curse them? Did he, some people say God cursed Job. Satan cursed Job.
That's right.
God never did that. He allowed Satan to test Job. It was a pretty tough test, but Job passed. But God never put anybody down for being rich, and he made a lot of people rich. We saw just a minute ago where he gave Solomon wealth and honor, okay, and respect throughout the world. So think about this for a minute. Those of you that are parents, do you love your kids? Of course you do,
Of course.
And do you want to bless them in every way?
Yes.
Sure. I've seen people overbless. When I was a financial planner, I saw families ruin their kids by just dumping millions of dollars on them when they died. And the kids blew through the money in a few years and ended up paupers.
My wife and I, we built a mission down in Mexico, in Puerto Penasco. And because we live in Phoenix, there's obviously a very heavy Latino population here. And something I noticed that really kind of stood out to me, one of the last company that I owned, one of my employees who was part of kind of the inner circle, I had with 50 employees, I had about 5 that surrounded me, and helped me deal with everything and everyone else. And when he got married, which was a big thing, and he was an ex-gangbanger. He had all the scars and bullet holes and stuff, to prove from where he came. But he changed his life, found God, and then he found a lady, and they got married. They had a baby, and I'll never forget the baby's first birthday. Now this child's never going to remember this, but they spent hundreds upon hundreds of days. He came to me to borrow money for bouncy houses and for like gold jewelry and all this stuff, and I was like, brother, I feel led to give you wise counsel here. But he wasn't having any of it because it was like a cultural kind of a thing, and so I think I probably loaned him about half of what he asked for, but celebration went forth.
Yeah, well, you get a little crazy when your first kid has their first birthday.
Yeah.
I not only rented several bounce houses, I had a petting zoo, I had a face painter, I had clowns, balloon makers,
Oh boy.
I hired a band, I had a guy bring a big thing in and he made briskets and ribs, and my daughter had fun, but she didn't have any idea what was going on. She was just playing around with her cake and whatever,
Right.
and she doesn't remember any of it.
Exactly.
But it was, we wanted to celebrate our firstborn, I get that. But, like I say, sometimes you can bless your kids too much. You need to give them guidance and how to spend money and how to allocate it wisely and so on. And in a lot of cases, you need to put it into trust if you have a lot of money so that the kids don't just blow through it and ruin their lives. But the point is, we as parents like to bless our kids. Are we better parents than God? We're stuck. I mean, he's the ultimate parent. He's the ultimate lover. So it's first in Luke 11:11. I know it's talking about the Holy Spirit, but just the one part I want you to see there. So if you who are evil, and God's not, again, you always have to really study the word to understand the word. He's not saying that everybody is reading this verse is evil, but compared to him, we're evil, right? I'm not a real small guy, but compared to Rosie Greer, I'm like a midget,
Right.
I got a picture of Rosie Greer with this arm around my shoulder, and I look like 9 years old.
Yeah, he could have picked you up and carried you around.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, the guy knitted.
He did. Yeah. I remember that was like, when that leaked out, it was kind of and Joe Namath wore pantyhose because it kept him warm when he was on the playing field.
I didn't know, and
Yes.
I wish I didn't know it. But I picked up Rosie Greer at the airport and couldn't find him, so I went to the person who announced people, and they started saying Rosie Greer. I said, no, don't say Rosie Greer. Say Mr. Greer, because if Rosie Greer, he'll get mobbed, So I picked him up on my van and we took him out to the big Jesus Festival in Orlando where he was going to speak. And they said, just keep him in your van until he speaks. Otherwise, everybody will be mobbing around him, So he saw my guitar case there. He says, you play guitar? I says, no, Rosie, I just keep that around to use as a planner. I'm a little smart aleck. And so he asked me to give him a guitar lesson, and I did. I gave him a guitar lesson. But on the way from the airport over there, he pulled out this bag and he was knitting stuff. And I thought that was just pretty cool. He was secure in his own manliness. But if we who are evil, who are not God, in other words, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give the Holy Spirit and basically every good gift to you? So God wants his children to prosper in all ways Perhaps they got that in there accidentally. But here's the verse I mentioned earlier. Jesus said, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. The devil wants to destroy your family, your assets, even your ability to make a living. If he can disable you, he will, you know. But Jesus said, I'm come that you might have life and have it abundantly. So he wants the best for us. Here's the one you were talking about earlier, 3 John 1:2. Beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things, and that you may be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So it's sort of conditional, but if we're walking right with the Lord and our soul is prospering in the Lord, then we're going to see good health, and I'm not saying the Lord wants everybody to drive a Rolls Royce. Actually, I think it's
because
kind
some
of an
people
ugly car.
couldn't handle driving a Rolls Royce. It would take them down a dark path. And, you know, you talked about the church you grew up in. It was almost as if, you know, if you had money, there was something wrong with you kind of thing. Now, a little side street on that would be this thing about health. I remember the church that I grew up in, same thing. I think the only person in our church growing up that had money was a man that owned a small construction company. Everybody else was just, you know, just workers. They worked in a factory or something of that nature. But the health issue, if somebody got sick, nobody would say it, you know, out loud in public, but in hushed tones to each other. Wow, boy, he must, you know, what's he been up to? You know, if he's that sick, he must really be sinning. He's backslidden. You know, he's not walking right with God. And that's just wrong.
Yeah, people can take things too far. You know, I believe that it is God's will for his kids to be well, but there's a whole lot of things that go into that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we hurt ourselves by living wrong. And by that, I'm not talking about sinning, but you know how they say that sitting is the new smoking. If you live a sedentary lifestyle, you never get any exercise, chances are your health is going to suffer.
You know, I've been standing at my desk now for going on 2 years.
You like it?
Well, to be honest with you, when my wife talked me into it, because I was having some issues with my neck and my shoulder, because I sat in the same kind of cramped position with my hand on the mouse so many hours a day. So she talked me into doing it, and it was so hard the first couple of weeks. I kept wanting to sit down. Now, if I come into my office and sit down, it's like my brain won't kick into gear. It's like I have to stand up in order to engage brain and do my work. We're such interesting creatures God created.
Well, my wife got me for my birthday it's called a Veridesk, and
I've
my
seen the
keyboard and
commercials.
mouse are on it, and I just squeeze the handles and it'll lift it up to whatever height I want it. So I spend a lot of my time standing, not all day, but whenever I'm videotaping, I have to, because I've got this huge 56-inch monitor, and the camera has to be above it, so I have to stand for that. I do a lot of standing. Here's an interesting little factoid. Winston Churchill won World War II standing. There was a desk in his office, but that was for his secretary. He had a podium, like a pastor's podium, and he would spread his books and papers out there, and he stood 16, 18 hours a day. And he was an old man. I believe he's in his late 70s when he was the prime minister during the war. And he just felt like he could function better and be
I feel
more.
that way 100%. In fact, I have this huge. I have the desk of a man with a really overblown ego. You know, let me just say that nobody needs a desk this big with this huge credenza. It takes up over half the room. And so my wife one day, we were talking, I said, I would give this desk to somebody if they would just come, take it apart, and get it down, you know, the 2 flights of stairs that it took to get it up here. That was a young man's game. It was 2005 when I had some help. I drug this thing upstairs and got it in here. The thought of getting it out, but I would really like to go to a smaller desk. And she says, well, since you stand all the time now, really all you need is like a pulpit or a podium, as you said. Because I got my monitors on the wall. I have a couple desktop monitors, but I could put those on the wall as well. So,
Yeah, you can even mount them on the ceiling and bring down, pipe brackets.
oh, one of those little arms. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true.
A lot of interesting things are available today, but and they have these electric desks that will raise up to standing height and go back down to normal height if you need it. So who knows? Anyway, God wants us to prosper. I know that Christians get sick, and I know it's not. Sometimes it is because of sin.
Well, sure, if you're drinking too much and living a wild lifestyle, sure, that can wear your health down. That can cause you to come in contact with certain kinds of diseases.
When you take your communion, God says that some of you that eat and drink unworthily, which means that you haven't prayed, ask God to forgive your sins, and maybe you have anger and whatever against somebody else. I mean, when I serve communion, very often, as the Lord leads, I'll give people an opportunity. If you have a problem with somebody here, take a few minutes here and go and make it right with them. It's going to forgive you, or forgive them if that's the case. But don't take communion.
Yeah. Wait, what's the scripture where God says, if you, before you ask me for forgiveness, if you have aught with your brother, you need to go forgive him, then come back and ask me for forgiveness.
Yeah, and in the verses that we always read about communion, it says that because some of you have these things in your heart, you're sick, and some of you sleep. Some people even die because of unforgiveness and resentfulness. Eating wrong, you can get sick, and that's not on God. That's on you. It's not because of sin. It's because you eat garbage, and you're defiling God's temple. But my personal belief is that we're all going to die. But when we die, this God is a good, good Father.
You know what the leading cause of death is?
Stopping breathing.
Life.
Okay.
That's a sad thought for a Thursday, but it's the truth, guys. I mean, sometimes people get so caught up in this business of trying to live forever. I mean, we've made huge strides in modern science and medicine, and the lifespan of man has extended greatly. Well, now, at one point in history, it was like 900 years, Methuselah. But then it shrank down to about 45 years, I think, in the Dark Ages or the Middle Ages. Now we're back up to about 80 or 90 or something. I don't know what the actuary tables say we're supposed to live to today. But
women live a little longer than men, but
they do. That's true.
Definitely into the 80s for most everybody. But here's the thing. I believe the day I take my last breath, that God's will is that I die healthy. He doesn't want me to die of a stabbing pain of a heart attack or rot away with cancer. That's the way I understand the word. I think that He loves us so much. He wants the best for us. I believe His design is that we just go to sleep and then we're there with Him. It doesn't happen for everybody, and there's a lot of different reasons why, but I believe that, if you, as a parent again, you knew your child had to die, would you rather he just close his eyes and die peacefully, or that he have pain from cancer for 2 years and then die? There's no way that you would choose the cancer, right?
Right, which brings up a topic for another day: euthanasia. Is it right? Is it wrong? Legal? Illegal? Morally right or wrong? Topic for another day.
Yeah. Well, euthanasia causes abortion. I'll say that. Because euthanasia contributes to the general lack of respect for human life. So then it makes it a whole lot easier to kill babies, and even for people to commit murder. You know, if it's okay to kill your father because he's getting old and can't remember things or whatever.
Well, I mean, since you went down the path, if your loved one was in horrible, excruciating pain, and there was no medical hope for them, and that was what they wanted, that was their desire, was to check out, would you be with them on that, or would you try to talk them out of it?
I would pray and God would take the pain away.
Okay. Okay.
That's right. I'm a pretty cut and dry kind of guy.
Okay.
No, I would never deliberately kill anybody.
Well,
because
a good
only
friend.
God can take life. Only God can give life, and only God can take life.
A very good friend of mine, who was very instrumental in helping my wife and I build the orphanage in Africa. He died. Well, he was in a freakish accident. I won't go into the whole story, but it resulted in him being in the hospital bed in a coma. And I sat by his bed for like a week. And I wasn't a family member. I was just a friend. But I was the one that sat by the bed. Anyway, I don't need to talk about that. But they decided after a week to pull the plug. And I came unglued because I was sitting there every night holding his hand, praying, believing that any second he was going to open his eyes, right? But the doctor said the chances of that ever happening were like 0, that just medically could not happen. And when the doctor called me out of the room and said, I'm very sorry to tell you, but the family has made a decision and we have to respect. And so they turned the machines off and he was gone. And some would say, well, Dwayne, he was already gone. So, okay, I don't know. It was tough. It was really hard. And my heart goes out to anyone that ever has to deal with that situation or make that kind of a decision.
That would be a really, really tough decision to make.
Yeah.
No question. You know, in situations like that, and I've had many of them in the past, I just go and I pray and I say, look, Lord, I don't know. I don't know what your will is here. Do you want to heal this person right now? I know what I want, but if it's time for him to go home, and you know this can be better for him, then your will be done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would only let God be the instrument of that. I would never pull the plug or anything like that. Because so many times people pull the plug and the people kept on breathing.
Yeah.
So it obviously wasn't,
Right.
It wasn't their time. I'll just read one more scripture here before I wrap up. Proverbs 22:4. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and life. Humility. I'm like Dwayne. I'm extremely humble. I'm so humble that the first church I pastored actually gave me a plaque for humility, and then they took it away because I hung it on the wall. So
I knew there was a punchline coming. Yeah. Okay.
I learned my lesson for that. Fear of the Lord. That doesn't mean God wants to be scared of him, but we need to be fearful of displeasing him.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want our Father to be proud of us, just like we want our physical parents to be proud of us.
Right.
But if we're humble before the Lord and we fear sinning against him, it's not actually fearing the Lord, but fear sinning against him, is riches. And there's only one way you can interpret riches, right? Riches. And honor. If you've lived a good life, then other people will honor you. And life itself. And we're not just talking about living and breathing here. But if you go back to the Greek, it's talking about a joyful life, a life full of blessing. That's what God wants for his kids. Now, we haven't mentioned gold, it's what I usually talk about, but I will say this. One of the ways that God has prospered me, that I've made serious money, is with precious metals. If you know how to use precious metals properly, buy the right kind, and know how to avoid the scams that are out there on the internet and the telemarketer guys and all that, you can make a lot of money. I deal with a lot of very wealthy people. I have dozens of millionaires in my client base, and I even have 2 billionaires. But all the wealthy people I know at least have some collectible gold, which is what we call the investment grade gold. And most of them have a lot of it because there's so many different ways that you can benefit. There's huge tax benefits. There's a benefit of, being able to hide your net worth. Somebody wants to sue you. Somebody tries to sue me for something, and they have some hacker check into all of my assets. I look like I'm worth maybe 20% of what I'm really worth because I buy my gold privately. So there's a lot of advantages to that, and that's one of the ways.
And that's not illegal, folks.
Oh, not at all.
That's not illegal to buy gold privately.
That's right. Most states don't even have sales tax on it because why would you tax buying money? There's a few states that do.
I do have a question from the audience for you before you finish up today that does have to do with money. In fact, this is probably a great time to ask the question. This is from Fred. Fred says, Dr. Tom, I am hearing that cash is going away, maybe as early as January. All the banks are working on electronic wallets. What are you hearing? Should we get rid of all the cash we have under the mattress? And what other than gold will hold value?
Okay, let me first tell you about an incident that happened about a month ago. I'm talking to a client who has several $1 million worth of gold, and he happened to mention that he had $200,000 in bundles of $100 bills in his gun safe. I said, what in the world? Why do you have that? He says, well, I believe the dollar's going to crash. And so it's always good to have some cash around, if bad things happen. I said, did you hear what you just said? You just said the dollar is going to crash and become worthless. So you want to keep a couple $100,000 around to protect you against that. I said, if you do that, then I promise you, you will not have to worry about any shortage of toilet paper. Because you'll have a whole safe full of it.
Yeah.
So he ended up putting that cash into gold. Do I believe there's a war on cash? Yes. I'm actually writing a book on it right now.
There's signs right now because there's a shortage of coins. And I go to some stores and it says, due to the shortage of coins, we need exact change, or we need you to pay with a credit card, etc.
Or, I was at a museum store, at a government museum store at the Smithsonian, and whatever I bought was like $20.50. And so I handed them $20, and I stood there waiting. And they were not going to give me my 50 cents back. I could live without 50 cents. I said, what's going on? They said, well, we don't give change. I'm serious.
Sometimes when I buy something, they'll go, now you're talking 50 cents, we're talking pennies. Like they'll go, do you want your 4 cents? And my standard answer is, well, why would I not want my 4 cents?
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of a crazy question.
Most people wouldn't bend over and pick up a penny off the sidewalk.
Yeah.
This is worth so little.
I guess I'm just old school.
Yeah. But, money is money. But what we have today is, as you know, is not really money.
Right.
the currency we carry in our wallets is currency, but it's not money.
It's backed by the goodwill of the American people. It's backed by the fact that Americans are known for being hardworking people that get up every day and produce the gross domestic product, you know, in whatever business or endeavor that you're involved in. That's what money is backed by. Now, you can't put a sharp pencil to that. So go ahead.
Well, according to the Treasury Department, money was backed by gold until 1933.
Right.
And then their answer is today it is backed by all the goods and services in the U.S. economy, which is sort of nebulous.
Right.
I mean, I used to take a $20 bill and get a 1 ounce gold coin. Now the only thing the government will give me is 2 10s or 4 5s or 20 singles. But you mentioned that GDP. Did you happen to hear what the second quarter GDP number was?
I did, but I don't remember what it was.
Well, it was negative, right?
I don't know. Was it, Dr. Tom? Because we report those economic numbers on the show.
Yeah, I have not seen it, but
Most
a couple of months ago,
GDP.
the economists were saying it was going to be negative 38 to 40%, which is worse than it was during the Depression. And even the White House said that it was going to be negative around 30%. So I was just wondering what it ended up being, because
This is dated.
we are in the greatest recession that there's been since the Great Depression. So
Most recent GDP 2020.
but while you're doing that, let me go ahead and answer Fred's question.
Maybe do we have
yes,
the second quarter number yet? Because I'm
They may
finding
not have
numbers
it.
for the first quarter.
Well, what was the finals for first quarter run?
First quarter, real gross domestic product GDP decreased at an annual rate of 4.8% in the first quarter of 2020. Current dollar GDP decreased 3.5%, or 191.2 billion in the first quarter, to a level of 21.54 trillion. Now that's dated April of this year.
I have a feeling they're going to delay putting out the second quarter numbers.
Yeah, those numbers aren't out yet. Okay.
This could be pretty bad. But anyway, the war on cash is happening in a number of different ways. A lot of places just don't take cash, period. They only take credit cards or debit
I
cards.
think a lot of Starbucks have gone to cashless. I don't think all of them have, but I do believe some of them have. I read an article somewhere, headline.
And the scamdemic gives them another reason for it.
Sure.
Even though you can't transmit the virus on paper, it's impossible. They're using that as an excuse. Well, money might have coronavirus or
Filthy
whatever.
lucre, yeah.
But is the government for years has been consolidating banks. We got rid of the S&Ls, and then 2008 was a good excuse to consolidate a bunch of banks. They forced to pull the trigger and take over our retirement plans and force us into the black hole of Social Security. Consolidation is the name of the game, but they have to get rid of cash. So they're behind schedule. Years ago, they were planning on already having the new $100 bill with the 17 biometric features that, I mean, they can literally go around in a safe deposit box room with a scanner and tell which boxes have $100 bills in them because of the metric things they built into them. And I believe, although I've seen this proved, that they'll also be able to use that to track with. You know, just like putting a chip into a dog or a cat, that they've got some of the features they put in the $100 bills. But their plan was to have all of that done 10 years ago, and they had technical problems because by now they wanted to have the 50s and the 20s and the 10s, and they were going to drop the $5 bill and the $1 bill and drop all change. And then eventually you wouldn't have a checking account. I tried to use a check at a store the other day, and the clerk had never had seen one before. So
That's funny.
he said, "What is this?" You know, and
Goldman Sachs just reported earnings, and second quarter, they just blew the roof off. Second quarter earnings per share, $6.26. Guys, sometimes you should go take a look at the financials, which are public, from their trading desk. They average about 5 or 6 losing trading days a year. Oh no, it's not rigged. Come on.
well, I used to make 50 to 100% a year trading stocks, but I don't think I could do that today because they've got these supercomputers. By the time I pick up my mouse, they've already been in and out of the stock I was going to buy and made $200,000 on it, you know, or $1 million. So anyway, the main thing is I believe it's going to consolidate. Most of us have like 5 or 6 different credit cards and 2 or 3 different debit cards in our wallets. It's all going to be down to one account. Okay, you know, one card. If you have money in it, it acts like a check or a debit card. Mm-hmm. If you don't have money and you got credit, then you'll borrow. But everything that you get will go into that. They've forced everybody on Social Security already to direct deposit, and they're trying to force all employers to do direct deposit. So they want to get everything centered around one account.
I think you'll get a number assigned at birth. It'll function as your phone number, your Social Security number, your bank account number, everything all rolled into one. Boom. You'll be branded, tattooed with that number for life. Is that the mark?
And they'll always know where you are.
I don't know. And they'll always know where you are.
Yeah. So, if you go to CFRNgold.com, CFRNgold.com, I'll send you some really neat information. You'll know more about precious metals than 95% of the guys who call themselves financial planners today, because they're not allowed to learn about gold. They only learn about, traditional investments. But again, the smartest people in the world, my wealthiest clients, all own gold, and particularly investment grade gold. If you want to talk to me directly and don't want to go through the website, just call 561-753-5998, 561-753-5998. Bless you, and
hey, there was one more question for you real quick. One more question from Aaron. Aaron says, question for Dr. Tom, is he aware of tracking chips placed in bullion? Is it better to buy bullion from private companies versus the federally made coin bullion? And he goes on to say, I don't know if there's tracking in bullion or not. He's trying to find out.
I have not heard anything like that. But, first of all, I would always buy bullion that has the hallmark of a sovereign government, because at least you know that it's real gold. So much of the stuff that comes from private companies is actually counterfeit. You have to be real careful when you buy bullion gold.
There was a big thing about that the other day. Somebody had mentioned it in the chat room or something.
Well, the thing is, the Chinese have factories running 24 hours a day, counterfeiting just about everything you can imagine.
Fake.
But tungsten has almost exactly the same specific gravity of gold. So if they make a tungsten coin and plate it, electroplate it with a little bit of gold, even experienced dealers won't know the difference. So I only buy my bullion from guys who have this machine. It's about a $25,000 machine, and you can place gold or silver or platinum on it. It will tell you exactly what the contents are in just seconds. When you buy gold from from an individual, or even from a lot of coin stores. A lot of coin stores don't buy their gold from the mint. They only buy gold from their customers. So if somebody comes in the morning and sells them some bullion, they pay them 5% under spot, and somebody else comes in the afternoon and they sell it to them at 5% over spot. So they made a nice 10%. They're happy, but they don't have the equipment to test it, and they have no idea whether the bullion they bought was actually genuine bullion.
Right.
So, number one way is to only buy bullion that it has the imprimatur of a sovereign government, a trusted government, from Afghanistan or something. And number two, only buy from people you know that have a lot of experience. Like the guy where I get my bullion has 50 years experience. He can practically look at a coin and tell you if it's real. He has the testing equipment.
Gotcha. Check this out. A Wuhan, where did we hear that before? A Wuhan-based jewelry maker said officials in China are investigating allegations the NASDAQ-listed company used fake gold bars to secure loans from Chinese financial institutions. Reports in Chinese media raised questions about whether King Gold Jewelry Incorporated had pledged 83 tons of gold that mainly consisted of copper alloy to secure loans. According to a report by the Chinese news outlet Caxin, the issue was flagged when some of the supposed gold was sent for quality checks earlier this year after the company failed to pay interest on one of the loans. In an added twist, the company said it was unable to retain independent investigators to look into the matter because all of its bank accounts have been frozen as a result of various legal proceedings. The scale of this alleged fraud that King Gold is being accused of is simply staggering, according to a former director of the U.S. Mint. Fraud of this magnitude needs some type of enabling, like a lax regulatory environment or compliance and or favoritism and corruption. Controversy engulfing King Gold follows cases of other U.S.-listed Chinese companies that have faced scrutiny, among them Luckin Coffee, a once high-flying Chinese company that took on Starbucks, saw its shares plummet in April after it was rocked by an accounting scandal. And then there's a bunch more, but guys, you can Google that. Another question here from Joe. What is your recommendation on us who are sitting on some cash, physically and in brokerage accounts? Of course, I know your answer is going to be to buy gold, but maybe, you know what, Joe, why don't you call him? He just gave you his phone number. That sounds like maybe a conversation. Of course, please share whatever you want to and will with the audience at large. But Joe, I invite you to give the doctor a call.
Yeah, because a lot of what I might say would depend on certain things that are individual to you. But in general, I'm a hard asset guy. Hard assets include real estate and precious metals.
Do you ride a Harley?
I don't own.
Oh, you said asset. Okay, I'm sorry.
So I have a real estate investment that's averaged 17 or 24% for the last 17 years, which I like very much. And I got probably 30% of my net worth in that. And then 70% in precious metals. So my feeling is if you can't hold it, you don't own it.
That's a fact.
It's not real. But yeah, feel free to give me a call. I do want to comment on that King Gold thing. Mm-hmm. The word copper there is a red flag.
Did it say copper? It said some kind of alloy.
You said a copper alloy.
Okay. Well then.
How do you spell King?
It's all one word. K-I-N-G-O-L-D. K-I-N-G-O-L-D. Jewelry Incorporated. Yeah.
King Gold Jewelry. Here's the thing. All money that is throughout history that has been produced for circulation is some kind of alloy. Gold, 24 karat gold, is just too soft. and it scratches easily and dents, and it doesn't handle being carried around your pocket with other coins. So on average, depending on the country, 6 to 7% of the alloy of gold coins is some countries, if they have silver and they don't have much copper, they use silver instead, but that's typically the thing. But the thing that raised a red flag in my mind as far as the veracity of that report is copper is so much different in weight that even somebody who's has no experience or knowledge at all they had to do is pick up one of those bars and they could tell that it's not gold. Now, again, if it was a tungsten bar, there's only two ways to find out for sure, and that's either to drill into it or to use the electronic equipment. You couldn't even use the acid test.
Yeah, it does say
because the
copper
covering-
alloy in this. You're right. It says copper alloy in this article.
Yeah, so it sounds, just off the top of my head, it sounds like a Chinese scam.
Could you give Joe your phone number one more time? He said he just walked in.
Yeah, it's 561-753-5998. 561-753-5998. I'll check into that. We'll talk about it next week.
All right, brother.
Okay, God bless everybody.
Thank you so much.
Live
Appreciate
long
it,
and
as
prosper.
always.
Okay.
Yes, live long and prosper. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, we have covered the markets. S&P, that's what we're looking at. Still doing that sideways wobble. Dow, Russell. If you missed the earlier part of the show, it'll be uploaded in a bit, as we do every day, and you can go back and watch. As I went through each one of the markets, covered the Concierge Trade Alerts, the Logic, Russell, NQ got above that trend line, held the pullback. Now here we go. So watch this area right. From that swing high to that swing high. That's what we call a window of opportunity. That swing high to that swing high. Be long and prosper. That'd be about 106.23. 106.23 to 106.33. That's $200 per contract trader. Okay. All right, and we looked at everything. There's crude. We did get that failure where I thought we might. Gold took a real tumble, coming into a weekly zone at 1794/95. That's a current weekly zone. Our alert last night was to be short 1809. So 1809 minus 1795. That's $1,400 per contract traded. And silver gave us a couple nice trading opportunities as well. Today's Thursday. Thursday is the day we have our workshop for all members. And when you take the trial, we treat you just like a member. The whole week, you get everything. Access to the room, weekly trading zones, Logic 247, Concierge Trade Alerts, get to use the indicators, the platform, everything. The only thing you don't get to do is attend the workshop on Thursday night. That is members only. Okay? So if you've been on the trial, you like what you see. If you're tired of bouncing from room to room, guru to guru, trying every new shiny object that comes down the pike, if you're ready to just settle in, settle down, learn how markets work, And as you're learning how markets work, there's a little side benefit. As you're learning, you'll have access to these. So far this week, since Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 70 actionable alerts. 10 got stopped out. 14% got stopped out. Based on not risking more than $300 per contract per trade. If that's what you've been looking for, if that's what you've been praying for, call Valerie at 949-42-EMINI or send an email to support@cfrn.net. Ask for a price sheet, spec sheet. Valerie, I'm interested in becoming a member. What's it going to cost me? You're going to be so pleasantly surprised. And that's not weekly, that's not monthly, that's not annually. That's good for life. Good word for the day. Spiritual insight. Something we should all pray for. Proverbs 20, verse 5. The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out. The people who knew Simon, not Simon Cowell, the Simon from the Bible, they knew he was impulsive and tended to put his foot in his mouth. But Jesus saw something else in Simon. That's why he renamed him Peter, implying he was a stone suitable for a foundation. Can't you imagine the look on the other disciples' faces when Jesus said in Matthew 16:18, "You are Peter. Upon this rock I will build my church, and hell will not conquer it." And Peter did indeed become a founding pillar and respected leader in the early church. And all because of Christ's ability and willingness to look beyond the surface and see what was on the inside. You see, being made in God's likeness, which we are, it's at the beginning of the book in Genesis. Being made in God's likeness gives a person amazing potential. But sometimes it takes a man of understanding to recognize it and draw it out. Too many of us see only what is on the surface. So we are quick to peg someone as arrogant or quick-tempered or weak. But when you have spiritual insight, you see beyond all that. You see the hopes and fears behind the person's behavior. Next time a clerk in a store, cashier, clerk, whatever, gets a little snippy with you, before you run off and report them to the manager, maybe just for a second, think about what's going on in their life. In fact, if you pray for Holy Spirit insight, you might get a flash. I'm not talking about you see stuff, I'm not talking about a hallucination. But that clerk who was maybe just a little short with you or didn't quite go as far above and beyond the call of duty as you think they should, maybe they got a husband at home who's dying, or a child who ran away and hasn't been heard from for weeks. Maybe they got other stuff on their mind. Now, I agree that a clerk, should be courteous and the customer's always right, yeah. But sometimes we got to look beyond the surface. When you have spiritual insight given to you by God, by the power of the Holy Spirit, you see what others don't. It's so easy to be a critic in all areas, right? From the financial arena to sports. How many armchair quarterbacks sit out there and scream at their television? I guess not so much anymore, but. And which, by the way, I hope you never heard me talk about a boycott before. But before you go and boycott the Goya food product line, maybe you should think about boycotting the NFL. It's just ridiculous, but that's a story for another day. We don't need more self-appointed critics. What we need are parents who pray for their children, look beyond their flaws, and draw out their uniqueness. That's the first thing on the list. Second thing is spouses who search for the hidden treasure in their mate. Number 3 is business leaders who treat their workers with respect and match their responsibilities with their talents. Number 4, believers who forgive immature, stumbling fellow Christians and disciple them and help them to develop and to become mature Christians. And more than we need another self-appointed armchair critic, we need soul winners who see lost people through the eyes of Jesus and recognize what his transforming power can do. So friend, if you pray for anything at all today, pray for spiritual insight. That's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.